Hello again, everyone. Welcome back for another edition of the Handyman Sportscast. I thank you again for listening to my show, and I also thank all of you that have provided me with much needed feedback. As promised from my last show, I have a special guest joining me this time, so go ahead and say hello, Will.
Hey, this is William Cook joining the Handyman Sportcast today. Really glad to be here. Thanks, Craig.
No problem. Will is joining me today to discuss a topic that both of us are pretty passionate about, and that is the NBA draft. So as you probably can guess, but this show we are talking nothing else but the NBA draft. Now, the NBA draft isn't for another 2 weeks, but it's never too early to look ahead. So go ahead, recline that chair of yours, go grab some food, a drink, and allow us to entertain your earbuds. Okay, well, let's first start off here, and let's just simply break down this. Let's simply break down the NBA draft. And here's how we're going to do that. I want us to both just kind of run through a little bit of a mock draft that we have of the first round, and then afterwards, in the second portion, we'll break it all down for each one of you. So, Will, I want you to go ahead and tell me your first 30 picks of this year's NBA draft. Go.
Okay, well, this is going to be a long list. First off, I've got Cleveland taking Andrew Wiggins first overall. I think that Andrew Wiggins is the LeBron James of this class. He reminds me a lot of Tracy McGrady. Second, I've got the Milwaukee Bucks taking Joel Embiid. I don't think that there's any way that they're going to take Parker, especially with them taking Antumboko. If I said his name correct, I'm sorry, I'm not Greek. And then, of course, I've got Jabari Parker falling third to the Philadelphia 76ers. After that, I'm following up with Dante Exum, Marcus Smart, Noah Vonleh, Julius Randle, Dario Saric, Aaron Gordon, and then Gary Harris for the rest of the top 10 right there. Then moving into the next 10 picks, I've got Gary Harris, James Young. Oh, I said Gary Harris already, Philadelphia. Sorry. So starting with number 11, James Young to Denver, Doug McDermott to Orlando, Glenn Robinson III, and then Mitch McGary to Phoenix to end the lottery picks right there. Next, I've got T.J. Warren, Adrian Payne to your Chicago Bills, Craig. Bulls, sorry. I've been thinking football lately. P.J. Hairston, Jeremy Grant, Samaj Christian, and then Tyler Ennis going to the Toronto Raptors, taking the place of Kyle Lowry, who might be departing this year in free agency. Then the last 10 I've got right there, from 21 to 30, I've got James Michael McAdoo to the Thunder, LaQuinton Ross, Jarnell Stokes, Vajilhe Mychik, probably killed his name too, Patrick Young, Deontay Burton, Jahil Carson, Russ Smith, Kyle Anderson, and then last but not least, Jusuf Nurkic to the Spurs.
I decided instead of just going the route of looking at ESPN and CBS, because those are the taboo things to do, you know. So I decided I found this website kind of cool. It's called hoopscoop.com.
Great website I'm going to add in there.
First off, to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Andrew Wiggins. Number 2, Milwaukee Bucks take Jabari Parker. Number 3, the Philadelphia 76ers take Dante Exum from Australia. Number 4, the Orlando Magic take Noah Vonleh from Indiana. Utah Jazz take Joel Embdiid from Kansas. Boston Celtics takes Marcus Smart from Oklahoma State. Number 7, the Los Angeles Lakers take Julius Randle. The Sacramento Kings take Aaron Gordon. And the Charlotte Hornets take Nick Stauskas from Michigan. And the Philadelphia 76ers take Dario Saric from Croatia. So here's how the rest of the draft, according to this one person on hoopscoop.com, this is what he says from 11 down. Then Denver Nuggets take Doug McDermott. Orlando Magic take Zach LaVine from UCLA. Minnesota Timberwolves will take Gary Harris. The Phoenix Suns will take Kyle Anderson from UCLA. The Atlanta Hawks take Rodney Hood from Duke. The Chicago Bulls will take James Young from Kentucky. The Boston Celtics will take Tyler Ennis from Syracuse. The Phoenix Suns will take Adrian Payne from Michigan State. The Chicago Bulls will take T.J. Warren from North Carolina State. The Toronto Raptors take Elfrid Payton from Louisiana Lafayette. Oklahoma City Thunder will take Jusuf Nurkic from Bosnia. I apologize to you if I mispronounce that name. The Minnesota Grizzlies will take Clean Anthony early from Wichita State. The Utah Jazz will take Jeremy Grant from Syracuse. The Charlotte Bobcats will take P.J. Harrison from Texas. The Houston Rockets will take Clint Caplia from Switzerland. Sorry if I mispronounced that one. The Miami Heat will take Shabazz Napier from Connecticut. The Phoenix Suns will take KJ McDaniel from Clemson. And the last 3 picks, the Clippers take Vasily Mick from Serbia. The Thunder will take Glenn Robinson III from Michigan. And the Spurs will take Markel Brown from Oklahoma State. So, those are 2 opinions of what the first round will look like. So, Will, after listening to this particular website, what are your agreements and what are your disagreements with from what you predict and what this one particular expert predicts?
Well, really, there's a lot that we agree on. There's a couple players that he has early on in the draft that I understand why he's picking him there. Most people are picking them in the first round. I just think they're going to drop. People like that would be Zach LaVine, Rodney Hood, who should be a first-round pick. I see him dropping to the second round just because there's always a couple of players. I noticed he has Clint Capella in there. I think Clint Capella from Switzerland is top 15 talent that will also drop to the second round. One thing I completely disagree with is the Philadelphia 76ers taking Dante Exum 3rd overall over Joel Embiid and even Noah Vonleh. Exum is a talented player who is a potential top 3 player if Wiggins, Parker, and Embiid are not in the draft. And I could understand maybe the Sixers taking Exum over one of those 3 if they didn't draft Michael Carter-Williams last year, who just won Rookie of the Year. They already have a point guard. Exum is a point guard. He's not going to be a shooting guard. At that point, I'd say that they have to take Embiid if he drops to them, just because he's the best player available, and they already have Nerlens Noel, who can play power forward next to Embiid.
There is one player that I've had an opportunity to just kind of follow throughout his career, and Will pretty much knows the player that I'm going to discuss next, or the first player that I would like to discuss, is Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott, I will be the first one to admit, I'm not a big fan of his school. I'm a diehard Husker fan, so there's kind of an in-state rivalry between these two. But there is no denying this. Doug McDermott may be the best player to come out of Creighton, and yes, he may be the best all-around player, better than even Kyle Korver when he came out. So, Will, I want to ask, first of all, what do you think of his game? And you actually had him drop, I believe, to the Orlando Magic instead of the Denver Nuggets taking him as this one particular expert has him going. How well do you think his game translate, first of all, to the NBA?
Well, first off, going off maybe the best player to come out of Creighton into the NBA, you only have Kyle Korver to compare him to there. So, I mean, apples and oranges, they both can shoot threes. So Creighton can shoot the 3 balls, what we're learning. Doug McDermott is a player that he went last year 4th overall in the draft. He's a player that I could see a team in the top 8 saying, you know what? He's got an it factor. We want him on our team. He can shoot threes, and they could draft him. I see him going to number 12, and I think that's a perfect fit. I love the fact that I see the Magic taking Exum, their point guard of the future, who's going to be a baller, and then with their second lottery pick that they're getting from the Nuggets, taking Doug McDermott and basically saying, hey, we know we've got these stars building up. Now we need to get a guy who can hit shots. McDermott reminds me a lot of a hybrid between Billy Owens and Matt Harpring, if you think about that. He's not as good a shooter as Korver, I don't think, although he can hit some shots, but he'll be a starter or a 6th man or a 7th man on rosters for years to come, and he'll be a good addition to whichever team drafts him.
I personally couldn't agree more with that assessment. And Doug McDermott, that's what he does. He's a scorer. He can pretty much score from just about anywhere on the court, whether it's mid-range, three-pointer, or when he's at his best is when he drives to the hoop. Okay, so now let's talk about the top 3 players, at least on everybody's boards: Wiggins, Parker, and Embdiid. Let's start off with Embdiid. Before we came on this show today, I decided to do a little bit of digging on this guy because I keep hearing everyone hype Embdiid. and be the first one to admit, I haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to watch his game. So I typed his name into YouTube, and the first video that I happened to watch, I just have to say I was absolutely just blown away with his ability to just stay patient. He doesn't get antsy. He doesn't just fling his body around and just hope something good happens. Like, no, he lets the play develop. And that's something that I was immediately just blown away by in just the 2-3 minutes that this video was playing. And the next thing that's interesting to me is this is a guy that's only been playing basketball now for 2 years. I mean, and in 2 years, he's already projected to be a top 3 pick. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And as deep as his draft class is, to be in that same category, I think says a lot about what this player can accomplish. Now, again, he could slide a little bit because of that back injury. Will, I want to get your thoughts on Joel Embiid. I know that you're a lot higher on him to start than I was, but now that I've kind of watched him, I was like, okay, I can see it.
Well, I think you're higher on him now, and the sad thing is I'm actually kind of lower on him now. I think Embiid has the potential to be the next Hakeem Olajuwon in the NBA. The only issue is the fact that he's injury prone, and we saw that last year as he was playing for Kansas. He's only been playing for a few years. He's come out of Cameroon. That's where he's from. He reminds me a lot, the story reminds me a lot of Ezekiel Ansah, who got drafted by the Detroit Lions in the NFL, where he'd come from Ghana and had only been playing football for a couple of years. Joel Embiid is very similar to that. And he could easily become the next Hakeem Olajuwon. I think the Bucks drafting him second overall, I don't think that they can look past him even if he is injury prone. I think the Cavaliers can look past him unless he comes back 100% on his injury examination or his pre-medical tests. There's no way that the Cavaliers can take a risk on him, especially after whiffing on Anthony Bennett last year. But Embiid, if he is healthy, he's going to be amazing. If he's not healthy, we're getting Greg Oden 2.0, and that's a sore spot for me. I'm a Trailblazers fan. So I'd warn anybody against taking an injury-prone center.
The NBA has seen a lot of the history with big and tall centers like Embiid. To be honest, I look at his body frame, and yes, he's a little bit more muscular than Yao Ming was when he came out, but I still kind of see a lot of comparisons between these two players. So, well, how can Embiid avoid result that we saw with Yao Ming when he came into the league?
Well, there's a difference in the fact that Yao Ming was 7'6" and Embiid is 7 foot. The taller you are, the more injury prone you are. And that's something that he can't change. It's just going to come down to conditioning. And whichever team takes him is just going to have to be careful. Houston ran Yao Ming a lot thinner than they should have, and it ended his career early. And that's what has happened with a lot of different centers over their lifetime. They've just been ran for a very long time, and it's hurt them. But whichever team drafts them, they just need to be careful. I think Milwaukee is a good fit. They have Larry Sanders, and they can put Larry Sanders at the 4. I think he better fits as a power forward than a center where they've been playing him. And it kind of gives Sanders incentive to play. And when Sanders is playing well, they can sit Embiid on the bench. He's going to be a rookie. He's going to be learning the game. And that would give them an opportunity to wean him in and make sure he's completely healthy. So when they need him, when they finally make the playoffs, which, I mean, miracles happen in this world, the Bucks can get back there eventually. Like, he'll be ready to play 35 to 40 minutes a game.
Agreed. All right, so we're going to move on now. And we're now going to move on to probably the number one player on everybody's boards, and pretty much has been the number one player since he walked into the same school at Kansas, and that is Andrew Wiggins. And Andrew Wiggins, he has those abilities to score. You know, he had games last year where he scored, 41 points against West Virginia and then another 30 points against Oklahoma State. Then there was the NCAA tournament game against Stanford where he only scored 4 points. It's almost kind of like a hit and miss a little bit, it seems like, with Andrew Wiggins. And there are some people that believed that he was this major scorer that's coming in, and now all of a sudden we're kind of starting to see that maybe his comparison's a little bit more, and I realize this is going to be a far-fetched statement to make, but his game is much more comparisonal to LeBron James. So, Will, I would like to get your breakdown now of how you see Andrew Wiggins transitioning to the NBA, and at least let's try to forecast, say, 5 years from now, what type of player will Andrew Wiggins eventually be?
Okay, I have 3 points to make here. The first point isn't going to be a point. That Stanford game was a fluke. Stanford was a scrappier team than most people thought, and they did not deserve to be a 10 seed. Of course, that might be my Pac-12 bias coming in. The first point I'm going to make is, first off, Cleveland's going to take Andrew Wiggins first overall. And halfway through his rookie season, they're going to be asking LeBron who. They're going to have completely forgot that LeBron left them, and they're going to be the ones laughing because now they have the young player who people are going to start asking, who's going to be better at the twilight of their career, LeBron James or Andrew Wiggins? That's going to be a question that we're going to be hearing for the next 10 years. Point number 2. Andrew Wiggins reminds me a lot. He doesn't remind me of LeBron James, Craig. We disagree on that point. He reminds me of Tracy McGrady, when Tracy McGrady had all that potential. And certain defactors brought down McGrady's career, but there was a point when McGrady averaged over the season, it was like 32.7 points per game. It was amazing. And Wiggins has that potential, and I think he's going to do that. Point number 3, 5 years down the road, Andrew Wiggins will have at least one MVP under his belt. I have no doubt about it, and the Cleveland Cavaliers will be a top 4 team playing in the Eastern Conference. They'll be winning their division year in and year out, even over the Indiana Pacers, and they might even make it back to the NBA Finals.
Well, I think for myself, when I look at Andrew Wiggins and I just think about his game, and okay, let's just say, for example, that Stanford game, let's see if we can just take that game out. But it was still an NCAA tournament game. When he gets it, if the Cleveland Cavaliers can get their team back into the playoffs, and again, they were pretty close this year, they just missed it out a little bit. There are going to be those times where when the Cleveland Cavaliers do make the playoffs, that he's going to face teams that are a little more scrappier, that are a little more aggressive, and if he is not able to handle that, then his team is simply just going to get blown out. And that's why I think if the Cleveland Cavaliers are smart, they specialize, or they focus mostly their attention and try to exemplify the strengths that he has and the ability to be that type of LeBron James player that he was. Not saying that, okay, we're not going to ask him to score 30 or 40 points, sometimes like what you see with Kobe Bryant, for example. Kobe Bryant, he's asked to score. Russell Westbrook, he's asked to score. Kevin Durant, he is asked to score. That's their type of game. That's not Andrew Wiggins' game. And I think as long as the Cleveland Cavaliers can play that game and allow, for the most part, because I think if the player that you're going to ask to score the most points in that game, or at least during the season, is going to be Irving. As long as Irving is on the team, he's going to be the guy that's going to be asked to score points. If Wiggins can be the type of player that they exemplify, again, if they intensify his abilities to be the leader, then I think without a doubt, like you, I think Wiggins will be a much better of a player than what LeBron James was when he was there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just want to add one point onto this too. Wiggins is going to be a leader on this team. We've talked a lot in the community just about Anthony Bennett bombing last year's number 1 overall pick. Andrew Wiggins coming to Cleveland is going to increase his stock. They played together on the under-18 Canadian national team together. They're really good friends. Kyrie Irving is going to be the number 1 scorer there, but Wiggins there is going to elevate that team to a new level. Dion Waiters, he's going to want to stay. Anthony Bennett's going to start playing to the potential. He's not going to be a number 1 overall pick. It was ridiculous that they picked him there, but he's going to start playing like a top 10 pick. Anderson Varejao, with Wiggins out there, he's going to be so much more open. Spencer Hawes, all of these players, it's going to rise Cleveland to a new level.
All right. So let's now go on to probably one of the most hyped players to come out of college right now, and that is Jabari Parker. And I know that when Will and I were planning this session or planning this podcast, I made a comment that he's most likely still going to disagree with me on. But I feel that coming out of this draft, and at least of the top 3 picks, I'm not just saying of the entire draft because I think there are players that are a little more athletic, but I think of the top 3 players that are coming out is that Jabari Parker is the most athletically gifted player of this year's draft. And just simply put, it's just, I want to read something to you guys. I'm doing in some of my research. I found this little quote, I guess this little tweet, I guess if you will. And this is kind of what's giving me this impression. This is what's making me believe this. this tweet that was sent out and that was quoted in BleacherReport.com. This person named Sam Emiko said
For Fox Sports Ohio. Yeah.
For Fox Sports Ohio that scouts at the WMG workout wowed by Jabari Parker's ball handling, remarkable amount of space created with a step back J, and a 360 dunk to finish a workout. That makes me believe within myself that coming out of this draft, that the type I can now just, after reading that just one little comment, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of the type of player that you're going to get. Maybe I would put him in the same comparisons of a John Wall for the Washington Wizards. Just his athletic ability is what's really going to set him apart from a lot of the other rookies that are coming out in this year's class. Now, Will, I'm going to give you the opportunity for you to rip apart my opinion on this. So I would like you to tell me, again, same things. Let's do the same thing that we did with Wiggins. I want you to tell me how you see his game being able to translate again to the NBA. And in, let's say, again, 5 years from now, what type of player will Jabari Parker be?
Well, first off, I don't completely disagree with you about Parker being potentially the best player in this draft class. He really could. And most years, he'd be the consensus, no doubt. You don't pick him first overall, you're crazy number one overall pick. But this year, the problem is we got Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid there. And they're just as good as him. And all three of these players are going to be, as long as they're healthy, huge players in the league. I have him going third overall to the 76ers. I feel like that's a good fit. I can picture him playing in a 76ers jersey. The issue I see there is that his supporting cast isn't going to be what Wiggins and even Embiid would be getting. I like the Bucks roster more than I like the 76ers roster. I know Michael Carter-Williams just won Rookie of the Year, but looking what he was going up against, it wasn't that good. Nerlens Noel, he's injury prone. I think he's going to be out of the league in 3 years. Noel, really. And I just see Parker. I see Parker as kind of a hybrid between Paul Pierce and Carmelo Anthony. A really, really good player who will always give 20 to 25 points to his team. He will be there year in, year out. He's going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate. He's going to be going to all-star games from his first or second season on, every single season. But I just don't see championships for him until he gets paired with somebody else. And at this point, I don't see Philly bringing anybody else in because it's not a desirable destination, even if they have Parker there. Unlike Cleveland would be able to bring people in with Wiggins there. Milwaukee might be able to, oh no, well, I say that now. I start saying that, I think about it again. I just see Parker needing somebody else to win a championship. But if he gets that somebody else like Paul Pierce did in Kevin Garnett and kind of Ray Allen, he could go and win multiple championships and be the cornerstone of that. He'll just need a little bit more to get there, unlike, I think, Wiggins. And Embiid isn't going to win his team a championship, but he's going to be a cornerstone.
I would like to talk about, just very distinctively, at least, let's do this from the second round. Okay, let's not do it from the first round, but let's talk about 5 players from the second round that we are not talking about now, but starting next year and probably maybe by the All-Star break, we're going to start going, maybe there was a little more to this player's game than what maybe we gave them credit for.
All right, well, the first one I'm going to throw out there, gosh, you're making this hard for me. I'm looking at my second round, and a lot of these players that I have in the second round are players that most people have in the first round. I'm going to go with my first one is Rodney Hood out of Duke. I think he's going to drop, even though he could potentially be a top 15 pick, and that he's going to be picked up. I've got him going to the Mavericks in the second round, 34th overall. He reminds me a lot of a Michael Finley, which is why I think the Mavericks would draft him. And that he's going to be there. He's not going to score a lot of points, but every once in a while he's just going to freak out and score a whole bunch of points. But that he's going to be a role model, and he can be a veteran leader 15 years down the road that a team can trust. And I think that we're going to see a couple of crazy outputs from him early next year. But nothing that's going to make us say, why didn't this guy go before Wiggins, Parker, Exum, all of these players? But we're going to say, no, he shouldn't have dropped to the second round. Another player that I'm looking at that, and I know you agree with me on this, Craig. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I've got him going in the second round, even though I think he should go in the first. I think he's going to drop because where he played is Elfrid Payton. I've got him going 40th overall to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's an excellent player. Some people have him ranked as the number 2 point guard, even over Marcus Smart. And he reminds me a lot of Rajon Rondo. I don't think he's quite there, and I don't think he will quite get to Rajon Rondo's status, but he can definitely get there. The talent is within him, and I think he'll be a good player for wherever he plays for. Another person I'm looking at is Clint Capella out of Switzerland. A lot of people have him late in the first round. I've got him in the second round. I've got him going to the Denver Nuggets. They're in the second round at 41 overall. And I just think that he's going to be a good player. I love international players. I think he's going to be a lot like an Amir Johnson, except he's smaller. He plays a small forward, power forward instead of power forward center slot. But I think that he's going to be a good addition to a team. Somebody else that a lot of people are saying is potentially late first, I've got him in the second too. It's Cleanthony Early from Wichita State. I've got him going 50th overall to the Phoenix Suns. I think he's going to drop a lot. He reminds me a lot of Terrence Jones in the fact that he's going to be an impact player for the team that he plays for, but he's not going to be that superstar. But he's going to be great value where Phoenix picks him at 50, where I have him at least. And then the last one that I have is actually a player that a lot of people are picking the Heat to pick in the first round. I've got them picking him in the second round. It's Jordan Clarkson out of Missouri. And he reminds me a lot of Michael Carter-Williams, except for the fact that he plays shooting guard instead of point guard. And I really think that if Miami Heat could get him where I've got them taking him at 55th overall, it's going to be one of the steals of the draft, because he could be a sixth man, or he could even start in Dwayne Wade's place, allowing Wade to come off the bench and play that second rotation. He immediately become a great team, and so much better than what we're seeing them play in these finals right now.
I did like the fact that you brought up one player that I had an opportunity to watch play in the NCAA tournament, and that is Elfrid Payton from Louisiana Lafayette. That one game that I watched, he just ran up and down that court and just was absolutely just putting a hole, and sometimes in Creighton's defense, because they played Creighton in that first round game. Yes, Creighton ended up winning that game by 10 points, and Alfred, he had about 20 points in that game, but it's not like he had a great shooting day. And that's kind of been the knock that has been on Peyton, is that he hasn't been able to be a very consistent scorer. One other player that I have to say that I really like coming out into the second round, Aaron Craft. I love his ability to just play defense. He's not going to be a starter, but I think wherever he manages to go in the second round, this guy is just awesome on defense. Those of you that watched the Big Ten game against my favorite school, Nebraska, he just absolutely just shut down Nebraska in that second half. Nebraska was just absolutely just frustrated with this guy, that they just simply just were not able to drive past him, because it just every time Nebraska seemed to come down the court, Kraft was just waiting right there to swipe the ball away and then to just take the ball down the court. And that's the whole thing too, is he's a great leader. He's someone that, again, he comes off the bench, he's going to run your point, or he's going to be someone that can bring the ball up and he's going to help set the play. And that's something that if I look at for any NBA team, I'm trying to think of a team I could throw out there. Okay, let's throw out the Houston Rockets, for example. I think the Rockets could definitely use a defensive point guard, especially as they are trying to continually to climb the ladder and trying to take the next step as that organization and try to get back to the NBA Finals. I think I could see this player not being the difference maker for them, but a player that could truly help them play better on defense. And those are a couple of the players that really stand out to me from this NBA draft. And again, it no doubt is going to be rather exciting for this draft. So last question that I'd like to ask you, Will, and I know this is going to be a hard thing to do, but of the first and two rounds, who is this year's absolute sleeper pick, but possibly be candidate for being Rookie of the Year?
I'm assuming that we're talking outside of Jabari Parker, Andrew Wiggins, and Joel Embiid, right?
Correct.
All right. If I had to go with anybody that it could be, I'd have to go with Tyler Ennis out of Syracuse. Just completely come out of nowhere. The man has an it factor like none else. He's going lower in the draft than I personally think he should, just because of size and some concerns that he might not translate well into an NBA style. I've got him going to the Toronto Raptors, 20th overall. I know other people have him potentially going to Boston. I've seen him going as high as Denver at 11. Even somebody who said he could go to the Bobcats or the Bobcats not anymore. They're the Hornets now. That's taken some getting used to. And the Kings. But I really think that if he gets on the right team where their point guard is set, but questions of whether their point guard is really the point guard of the future, Tyler Ennis could come out and could score 16, 17, 18, even 19 points a game and take that Rookie of the Year away from somebody like Wiggins or Parker or Embdiid, who might be on a team with a couple other stars who are scoring. Because it's usually scoring that gets you the Rookie of the Year, because that's what everybody likes, the flashy scorers.
Alrighty, listeners, that is really all the time that we have today, because we both of us can sit here and just talk about this all day, and that's not what we really want to do. So what I want to do is that I'm going to post several poll questions again on our website or on my blog page, and I want to get your thoughts. Out of the top 3 players, who do you think is going to be better? Wiggins, Parker, or Embdiid?
Vote Wiggins.
Please. We want to leave all biasness alone. Vote Parker. We want to know who you think is going to be there. And also, I'll leave at least a nice spot there, and I'll put a few names up there that of potential players that could be considered great boom players. And also, I want to get to know, who do you think is going to be an absolute bust? Who do you think out of this draft? Because again, you'd have to think, as deep as this draft is, there's going to be someone that most likely won't pan out the way we think that this type of player is, or we find out later on this isn't the type of player that we get. Maybe it's a Doug McDermott. Maybe it's a Rodney Hood. Maybe it's a Julius Randle from Kentucky, or even Aaron Gordon from Arizona. Even though I'm a little bit higher on Aaron Gordon, I liked watching him play this year. The times I watched him play, I feel like he's a great all-around basketball player, and I think he's going to be a guy that I feel like he's going to be a very solid role player, a very solid starter. He's going to be a guy he's going to be hard to keep off the court. That's the type of player that I see Aaron Gordon being. I want to hear what you think. You give me feedback. You tell me who you think is going to be a bust of an NBA player that's coming out of this year's NBA draft. And I also want to know, who is your Rookie of the Year? Is it one of the top 3 players, or is it someone else that's down the list? Again, we thank you again for listening to this very special podcast today that we've had. I want to give a special thanks again to Will for joining me here today. Will, do you have any final comments you'd like to make before we end this wonderful podcast we've had today?
You know, talking about the NBA draft, it just makes me sad that we didn't get the chance to talk about the best NBA team out there, the Portland Trail Blazers. Rip City, baby. Rip City.
You mean the Chicago Bulls? I apologize. I thought maybe you meant them. But anyways, we thank you for listening. Please look forward to my next podcast, which will be coming up here shortly. So like it, love it, share it, comment, tell me what you think, rip us apart. Do whatever you'd like to do. As we always like to end this, is that reporting from Rexburg, Idaho, I'm Craig Handy saying good night, and hey, go watch a ball game.